The galaxy was wide, filled with countless stars and countless species, but one tradition united them all. Every century, the Council of Races held a great festival known as the Union Ceremony. In this ceremony, the bravest champions of different worlds were invited to choose brides from among daughters of noble houses, warriors, and even rulers. It was not only a matter of marriage, it was politics, culture, and survival. Alliances were made with these choices. Enemies became friends. Weak species became strong through the bonds of family. For the first time in history, humanity had been invited. The human race was young among the stars, not yet fully trusted. Many still saw them as reckless children, too ambitious, too emotional, too fragile. But they had surprised the galaxy before. Humans were survivors, quick learners, and fighters, when pushed. And now the council demanded that one human champion stand in the great arena and choose a bride. That man was Captain Elias Kane. Elias was not the most handsome human, nor the most powerful. But he had earned respect through his courage in battles against pirates and his fairness in dealing with alien allies. He carried himself with confidence, yet without arrogance. When humanity's leaders asked who should represent Earth, his name rose again and again. So now, dressed in ceremonial silver armor with the Earth emblem on his chest, he entered the arena of brides. The arena was larger than any stadium on Earth. Its walls rose high, lined with banners from 100 civilizations. The seats were filled with representatives, nobles, warriors, and curious spectators. 1,000 alien voices echoed, mixing into a single roar as the ceremony began. Elias stood in the center, a single figure under a beam of white light. His heart pounded, but he kept his chin raised. He could feel the weight of every human watching through broadcasts across space. He knew he was not just choosing for himself, he was choosing for his people. With a loud, booming voice, the council speaker announced, "Let the veils be lifted. Let the brides be seen." One by one, figures stepped forward from the shadows. There were hundreds, perhaps more, each representing a race, a culture, or a family that wished for an alliance. They stood in rows, forming a half-circle around. Elias' gasps filled the arena as the veils came away. There was beauty everywhere. Alien women of every kind shimmered under the lights. Some had luminous skin that glowed softly like pearls. Some had hair that floated as if alive, like strands of silver mist. Some had wings, delicate and bright as crystal. Others had perfect symmetry in their faces, eyes like gems, and voices like music when they spoke. Each one looked like a vision of art, shaped to impress and tempt. The other champions from different species leaned forward, their eyes hungry, already whispering which bride they would claim. For them, the choice was about beauty, about power, about prestige. But Elias's eyes did not rest on them. At the very edge of the circle, standing apart from the shining figures, was someone else. She was tall, taller than Elias by almost a head. Her body was covered in dark armor that looked grown rather than forged, sharp at the edges, alive with faint pulses of light. Her skin, where it was visible, was obsidian black, smooth but marked by scars. Her hair fell like strands of night, and her eyes burned like embers under a storm. Whispers filled the crowd the moment people saw her. "Zira," someone muttered. "The widow of wars," another whispered. She was no gentle bride. She was no graceful noble. She was Zaira of the Krylith, a warrior caste feared across the galaxy. Her people were born for war. Her name was a curse on battlefields, for she had led armies that broke entire fleets. She was not called beautiful, she was called terrifying. Her presence alone seemed heavy, like a storm about to strike. Other champions looked away quickly. Some sneered. Some laughed nervously. None would dare to choose her. She stood there only because the council demanded representation from every race. Everyone assumed she would leave unchosen, as always. But Elias kept watching her. She did not smile. She did not shift her stance to look delicate or appealing. She stood straight, her shoulders firm, her hands resting against the armored plates at her sides. Unlike the others, she was not performing. She was simply herself. And in that silence, Elias saw something the others did not. He saw dignity. He saw strength. He saw someone who did not beg to be chosen because she had survived when no one else would. Her scars were not shameful. They were proof that she had endured. To Elias, that was more real than all the glitter and glowing skin around him. The speaker's voice thundered again. "Champion of humanity, step forward and choose your bride." The crowd leaned in, expecting him to walk toward one of the radiant beauties in the front rows. The council expected him to pick someone who would make humanity look clever and ambitious. Even his own people were watching, waiting for him to choose the safest option. Elias took one step, then another. His boots echoed in the vast silence. Every gaze followed him. But instead of walking toward the center, he kept moving, toward the edge. Toward her, toward the one everyone feared. Gasps spread through the arena. The other champions froze, unable to believe what they were seeing. Elias stopped before Zara, lifted his chin, and pointed directly at her. His voice was steady, clear, and loud enough to be heard even at the farthest edge of the arena. "I choose her." For a heartbeat, there was silence. Then chaos. The crowd erupted into shouts. Some laughed as if it were a joke. Some hissed in anger, calling it an insult. Others whispered in disbelief. Even the council members exchanged worried glances. No one had ever chosen Zara before. She was the scariest bride, the one no champion dared to claim. Zara herself tilted her head slowly. Her burning eyes met Elias's. She searched for mockery, for weakness, for fear, but she found none. His gaze was calm, steady, and unafraid. At last, she stepped forward. The ground seemed to shake under her heavy boots. She stopped at his side, towering over him like a shadow. The speaker, struggling to keep order, shouted, "The human has chosen. The bride is Zira of the Krylith." The decision was final, and as the noise raged around them, Elias only thought one thing: she is real. That is why I chose her. The arena of brides was still full of noise after Elias Kane's shocking choice. Many voices shouted, some in laughter, others in anger. The council speaker had already confirmed the selection, yet the audience struggled to accept it. To them, the human had not chosen beauty, nor power through politics, but fear itself. Zira of the Krylith stood tall beside Elias. Her armor reflected the white lights, and her ember-like eyes glowed as if they could pierce the hearts of those staring at her. She did not smile nor bow, nor show any sign of victory. She remained silent, unreadable, and as terrifying as the stories told about her. Elias, however, did not look afraid. His hand rested calmly on his side, and his gaze was steady as he walked with her toward the exit of the arena. He could feel thousands of eyes watching, judging, doubting, but he had already made his choice and he did not regret it. When they reached the long corridors behind the stage, the noise of the crowd faded. The echo of their footsteps filled the silence. Zara finally spoke, her voice deep, strong, and sharp like steel. "Do you know what you have done, human?" she asked, not looking at him. "You chose me in front of the galaxy. You will be called a fool, a madman. Some will laugh at you, some will fear you, and your own people will wonder why their champion tied himself to a monster." Elias glanced at her. "I didn't choose a monster. I chose a woman who is real." Zara's head turned slightly, her ember eyes narrowing. "Real? That is what you see? You look at me and see scars, blood, 1,000 dead left behind me. My name is Widow of 1,000 Wars. Do you know why they call me that?" "I've heard the stories," Elias said softly. "But stories are not always truth. People like to turn warriors into monsters so they don't have to understand them." Zara stopped walking. Her tall frame loomed over him, and for a moment, Elias thought she might strike him. Her sharp armor plates caught the light, making her look like a living blade. "You think you understand me?" she asked coldly. "You think your small human eyes can see what others could not? I am not beautiful. I am not soft. I am not the bride your people dreamed of. You should have chosen the glowing ones, the crystal-winged ones, the ones who make men forget fear." Elias's voice did not shake. "I don't need someone who hides behind glitter and shine. I need someone who has stood against storms and still stands tall. That is what I saw when I looked at you. You were not begging to be chosen. You were not pretending. You were simply you." For the first time, Zira was silent. Her expression did not change, but deep inside she felt something shift. It had been many years since anyone had spoken to her without fear or mockery. Warriors had respected her strength, yes, but never herself. To them she was a weapon. To others she was a shadow of death. But this human, he spoke as if she were something more. They walked again, their silence now heavier, not with anger, but with thought. When they reached the chamber prepared for chosen couples, a group of council guards stood waiting. Their leader, a tall alien with 4 eyes, spoke sharply. "The choice is official. The union is recognized. But do not think this will be accepted easily, human. You may have tied yourself to the Krylith death bride, but the galaxy does not. Forgive strange choices." Elias nodded once, refusing to provoke. "Then let them dub you." The ceremony was over, but the whispers of the galaxy still followed Elias Kane and Zaira of the Krylith. The arena, once alive with cheers and gasps, now felt distant as they stepped onto the transport that would take them to Elias's ship. The human crew had already begun to prepare for their return journey. Yet even in the excitement of leaving, tension lingered in the air. Many on board had heard the stories about Zira, about her strength, her battles, and the fear she inspired. When Elias introduced her, the reactions were immediate. Some crew members gasped. Others whispered to one another, eyes wide with disbelief. "The widow of 1,000 wars and on our ship?" one muttered. "She could crush us all if she wanted," another said under his breath. Elias ignored their words. He had chosen Zaira, not their approval. He walked beside her as she entered the human vessel, watching their reactions carefully. He could see her scanning the crew, assessing their strength, their intentions. She had learned long ago not to trust easily, and humans unfamiliar to her were unpredictable. At first, Zira remained quiet, observing everything around her. She did not ask for a room or a private space. She did not demand food or comfort. She simply moved through the ship as if she had been trained to occupy any place she entered. And in many ways she had. She had been trained for battle, for survival, for situations far more dangerous than sharing space with humans. The crew was nervous. Small mistakes, stepping too close, speaking too loudly, would draw her attention. But Elias made it clear. Treat her with respect. She was not a weapon to hide, nor a trophy to boast about. She was his companion. During the first hours of the journey, Zira explored the ship. Her armored boots echoed in empty corridors. Her eyes scanned every control panel, every observation deck, every hold. Elias watched her from a distance, curious how she would adapt. She surprised him. She was neither afraid nor confused by human technology. Instead, she analyzed it, touched it, tested it, and adjusted quickly. She moved like a predator in a new territory, cautious yet confident. At night, in the quarters prepared for her, Zira finally rested. She removed her armor carefully, piece by piece, revealing the dark, scarred skin beneath. She studied herself in the mirror. She had lived years expecting to be feared, not accepted. But she was beginning to realize that Elias's choice might be different from what she had imagined. Elias knocked softly on the door. "May I come in?" he asked. "Do you wish to see a monster?" she replied, her voice calm but sharp. "I wish to see you," he said simply. He entered, and Zira did not move. He observed her carefully, not judging, not commenting on her scars, her size, or her armor. He only nodded. "You fought many battles," he said. "You survived when others could not. That is why I chose you. Not because you are frightening, but because you are strong." For a long moment, Zira said nothing. Then she turned her head, and Elias saw the smallest flicker of something human. a quiet acknowledgement that perhaps she had been understood. The next day brought challenges. The ship's sensors detected a group of space pirates attempting to intercept them. The crew expected Elias to order Zara to remain inside, hidden from danger. But he did not. "She can help," Elias said firmly. "I trust her. She has fought more battles than any of us." Zara prepared herself quickly. She donned her armor, flexing her muscles as if greeting an old friend. When the pirates attacked, she was unleashed. The crew watched in awe. Zara moved with speed and precision that no human could match. She disabled ships, neutralized threats, and protected the human fleet with unmatched skill. She was not only terrifying, but effective. The pirates quickly realized they had underestimated her, and they paid the price. After the attack, the crew gathered to check for damage. They expected exhaustion, but Zara returned to her quarters quietly. Elias followed her, concerned. "You could have rested here," he said softly. "I am fine," she replied. But he noticed the slight tension in her shoulders, the exhaustion she did not speak of. Sitting across from her, he said, "You fought not for glory, but for us. That is more than most would do. That is why I chose you." Zara's eyes softened for a moment. She had never been thanked for being herself, only for the results she produced in battle. Elias's words were different. He did not fear her. He did not ask her to change. He simply recognized her strength as something valuable, something real. As the ship moved through the stars, Zara began to open up in small ways. She asked questions about human customs, about Elias's home, about Earth itself. She seemed curious, not judgmental, and Elias answered carefully, trying to bridge the gap between two very different worlds. During quiet moments, she shared fragments of her past, tales of battlefields, of loss, of moments when she had survived against impossible odds. Elias listened, never interrupting, never judging. He understood that these stories were part of who she was. And through listening, he began to see her as more than a warrior. He began to see her as a person. The crew slowly began to follow his example. At first, they watched her cautiously, whispering and staring. But as days passed without incident, they began to respect her, to see her not as a monster, but as a protector. When she smiled, a rare, subtle curve of her lips, it was enough to make them believe that perhaps the human captain had made the right choice. One evening, as they traveled through a quiet stretch of space, Elias stood on the observation deck, looking at the stars. Zara joined him, silent at first, and then asked softly, "Do you truly believe I am not a monster?" Elias turned to her, meeting her ember eyes without hesitation. "I do. You are not a monster. You are the reason we are alive. You are the reason we survived the pirates today. And more than that, you are the reason I chose you. Not for fear, not for appearances, but because you are real." For the first time, Zara felt a small warmth inside her chest, a feeling she had not known in many years. She had survived battles, wars, and betrayals. She had been feared, hated, and alone. And yet here, among humans, she felt something different. "Perhaps," she whispered, "I may have misjudged humans." Elias smiled. "Perhaps, but only one human mattered today." She looked at him, her fiery eyes reflecting the starlight outside, and said nothing more. But inside, a thought began to take root, something she had thought impossible. Maybe, just maybe, she could belong here. The journey home was long, filled with quiet moments and small lessons. And through it all, Elias and Zara began to understand each other not just as captain and warrior, but as companions, as equals, and as two beings from very different worlds learning to trust each other in the vast, uncertain galaxy. And though the stars stretched endlessly before them, one truth became clear. Together they were stronger than anything the universe could throw their way. The stars outside the ship were calm, but tension grew within. Word of Elias Kane's shocking choice choosing Zira, the feared Krylith warrior, spread quickly across the galaxy. Many species laughed at humanity, thinking it foolish to tie themselves to a warrior so terrifying. Others were concerned. Some feared what might happen if humans and Zira became stronger together. Zira sat in the ship's observation deck, her arms crossed, staring at the twinkling lights. Her thoughts were not of joy, they were of caution. The galaxy had its eyes on them, and not all of those eyes wished them well. Elias joined her silently. He had learned to respect her quiet moments, knowing that inside her mind, plans and calculations were always turning. They talk too much, Elias said softly. Let them whisper. We can't control what others think, only what we do. Zara's eyes remained fixed on the stars. You are fortunate, human. Many who choose me regret it quickly. You have been warned. I am aware, Elias replied, and I choose to stand by you anyway. That night, their ship received an encrypted message from a neutral sector. The Council's communication system was precise, and even the smallest anomaly could be detected. Elias decrypted the message, his eyes narrowing as he read the warning. The Veiled Dominion, he muttered. Zira's head snapped toward him. Her eyes burned brighter like embers lighting a dark room. They move again, she said. They always wait until the young or weak rise, then strike with overwhelming force, and now they have learned of your choice. Humanity is vulnerable, and they will exploit it. Elias leaned back, thinking quickly. Do you know their plans? Only partially, Zira replied. They will attack systems where humans are unprepared. Earth itself is at risk. They may believe that by striking fear they can make humans submit, but they do not understand you, human, nor do they understand what I am capable of. Her words were sharp, almost like steel slicing through silence. But Elias saw something deeper beneath the warning. She was not speaking just of power. She was speaking of loyalty, of protection. She had chosen to fight beside him. He straightened. Then we prepare. We warn the Council and ready our defenses. We won't be caught off guard. Zara's voice was low, calm, but deadly. I will fight, I will lead, but understand this. If the Council hesitates or betrays us, I will act alone, and no one, not friend nor enemy, will stop me. Elias met her gaze. Then we act together. Their first step was to contact the Council, yet even there distrust awaited them. The Council chambers, vast and circular, echoed with murmurs and whispers. Some representatives refused to meet Zara's eyes. Others openly mocked the human for his choice. Ends brid. The warning alarms blared across the fleet. Red lights flashed in the control rooms, echoing like distant thunder. Elias Kane stood at the command bridge, staring at the approaching enemy ships. The Veiled Dominion had come, their armada vast, dark and silent in the void of space. Beside him, Zira of the Krylith moved with quiet precision. Her dark armor glinted under the bridge lights, and her eyes burned with focus. She had been preparing the humans for this moment, training them in tactics and combat maneuvers that most had never imagined. Yet now, the time had come to prove themselves. The crew of Elias's ship was nervous. Some had never faced real battle. Others had fought in skirmishes, but nothing compared to this. Hundreds of enemy vessels, armed with advanced weapons, closing fast. Whispers of doubt traveled through the bridge. But Zara's presence quieted them. She did not speak in arrogance. She did not raise her voice. Her calm, confident demeanor alone inspired focus and courage. Elias took a deep breath. All units, ready for engagement. Zara, take point with the boarding teams if necessary. I want full coordination with our fleet. We survive this. Together. Zara nodded. Understood. I will lead. The crew will follow. We strike where they least expect. The first shots were fired almost immediately. Lasers streaked through space, cutting lines of fire across the void. Human ships returned fire, but they were outnumbered. The Veiled Dominion's fleet was massive, their tactics ruthless. Yet humanity did not falter, not because of numbers, but because they had something far more valuable: determination, courage, and the leadership of Elias and Zira. Zira's strategy was unorthodox. She divided boarding teams to attack enemy ships from multiple angles. While some engaged in direct combat, others disabled critical systems. The humans watched in awe as she led strikes with unmatched precision. Her moves were swift, deliberate, and deadly, not in the sense of cruelty but in efficiency. She neutralized threats quickly to protect lives, not to destroy recklessly. Elias coordinated the fleet from the bridge, adjusting tactics on the fly. He relied on Zara's knowledge of enemy maneuvers, trusting her instincts as much as his. She was not only a fighter, she was a strategist, a guide, and a shield. Every human on board began to see her not as a monster, but as the most valuable ally they could have. When the enemy tried to break morale by broadcasting fear messages across the human fleet, Elias knew words alone would not be enough. He activated the communication channels and appeared on screens throughout the fleet. Beside him, Zira stood tall, her armor shining, her eyes fierce. "We will not fear," Elias declared. "We are human, and we will fight. With her by our side, we will survive. Together." Zara spoke too, her voice deep and commanding. "Do not underestimate us. Do not assume weakness. We are strong, united, and ready. Any who threaten humanity will meet resistance they cannot survive." The message ignited courage across the fleet. Ships moved in coordination, crews fought harder, and every human realized that fear would not dictate their actions. The Veil. Dominion may have expected panic, but instead, they found determination. Zara personally led the most dangerous missions. Boarding enemy vessels, she moved with grace and power, neutralizing weapons, rescuing trapped crews, and disabling ship systems. Her presence alone inspired the humans. No one hesitated because she was beside them. And yet, she never sought glory. Every act was measured, purposeful, for the safety of the fleet. During one critical moment, a large Veil battleship attempted to flank the fleet. Elias realized the attack could be devastating. "Zara, you take the strike team and intercept," he ordered. Without hesitation, she led a small squad of humans in a daring assault. Using speed, clever tactics, and her unmatched combat skills, they disabled the battleship's engines and weapons. It drifted helplessly in space, neutralized without unnecessary loss of life. The humans cheered. For the first time, many realized that Zara was more than terrifying. She was a protector. Yet the battle was far from over. The Veil Dominion had more ships, more weapons, and more strategies. The humans were tired, but Elias and Zara refused to give in. They coordinated attacks, anticipated enemy moves, and worked tirelessly to protect every ship. Every human who faltered was reminded by her presence that retreat was not the answer, that courage could overcome fear. By the second day, the Veil Dominion's fleet had taken heavy losses. Ships that had once inspired fear now floated silently, in space disabled or destroyed. The human fleet, though battered, was still standing, and through it all, Elias and Zara remained at the forefront, not because they needed to fight alone, but because they led by example. Finally, after a relentless campaign, the Veil Dominion began to retreat. Their fleet fractured, and their leaders realized that humanity was not as weak as they had assumed. Elias breathed a sigh of relief. Zara's eyes, though still focused, reflected the first faint trace of satisfaction. Later, aboard the flagship, Elias and Zara stood together on the observation deck. The stars outside were calm again, but their minds were still alert. The crew celebrated quietly, grateful for survival, grateful for leadership that had seen them through impossible odds. "You fought well," Elias said softly, looking at Zara. "You didn't just protect the humans, you inspired them. You made them believe they could survive." Zara's eyes softened just slightly. "I fought because it was necessary, and because I chose to fight with you. Do not forget that. My loyalty is earned, human. You earned it." Elias nodded. "I understand, and I am grateful. The galaxy may fear you, but I see the truth. You are more than they imagine." For the first time, Zara allowed herself a small, quiet smile. It was not for glory. It was not for recognition. It was simply a human acknowledging her for who she truly was. A warrior, a protector, and now, a partner in the survival of humanity. And as the stars stretched endlessly before them, they knew one thing. Together, they could face anything. The Veiled Dominion had tested them. Humanity had survived. And in that survival, a bond had been forged that no enemy, no fear, and no challenge could break. The galaxy was quiet once more. The Veiled Dominion had been defeated, their retreat marking the end of a brutal campaign. Human fleets returned to their stations, repairing damages, counting losses, and honoring those who had fought bravely. The galaxy watched, some with astonishment, some with fear, as humanity had stood its ground and survived against overwhelming odds. Elias Kane stood on the observation deck of the flagship, staring at the calm stars. Beside him, Zira of the Krylith remained silent, her tall frame casting a long shadow in the starlight. She had fought tirelessly, leading boarding teams, training humans, and protecting every ship. Many had feared her. Some had called her a monster. Yet here she was, undefeated, and the humans she had protected now looked at her with respect. "You know," Elias said quietly, "the galaxy will never forget this battle. They will remember us and they will talk about you." Zira did not turn. "Let them talk," she said, her voice low and steady. "I did what I had to do. Words mean nothing in battle, only action counts." Elias smiled. "Then the words do not matter. The action mattered. You saved countless lives today. You inspired our people. That is what matters." She finally looked at him. Her ember-like eyes softened just slightly, revealing a glimmer of something she had long thought lost. Trust. "I fight for those who fight alongside me," she said, "and I chose to fight with you, human. Remember that." "I will never forget," Elias replied. The Council of Races had watched humanity's unexpected victory closely. Many had doubted that a human captain, paired with a Krylith warrior, could withstand the might of the Veiled Dominion. But not only had they survived, they had won. And now the whispers of mockery were replaced with admiration. Council representatives began sending delegations to offer new alliances. Some even asked for counsel, wanting to understand how humans could succeed where others might have failed. The other species who had mocked Elias's choice were now cautious. They studied Zira, the so-called Widow of 1,000 Wars, and realized that the monster they feared had been humanity's greatest protector. Back on the ship, life began to settle. Repairs were made, training resumed, and the crew adjusted to the reality of having Zira among them, not as a terrifying presence but as a respected leader and ally. Her confidence inspired courage, and her experience guided humans to become better strategists and fighters. One evening, Elias and Zira stood together on the observation deck looking at the stars in silence. After days of battle, the calm was welcome, yet strange. Zira spoke first. "You have done something unusual, human. You chose me when the galaxy would have never expected it. You saw beyond fear and stories. That is not common." Elias turned to her, a soft smile on his face. "I don't care what is common. I care about what is true. And what I saw in you was real. That is why I chose you." Her gaze softened further. "Many have fought alongside me. Many have relied on me. But few have ever chosen me for who I truly am. Most choose what is easy, what is beautiful, what is safe. You chose differently." "I saw strength where others saw danger," Elias said simply. "I saw survival where others saw scars. And I saw a partner, not a weapon. That is why I chose you, Zara. That is why I trust you." Zara remained quiet for a moment, letting his words sink in. The war had tested them both.